I've always wanted to ask you this question.
Okay.
And this is like, I've been waiting to ask Brooksy this question. What is grief?
I think I tend to avoid uncomfortable conversations and uncomfortable topics. And although it's nice to talk about the people or person that you're missing, in whatever context that is, it's nice to think about them, reminisce in a happy way, but I've never really learned or been good at talking in the comforting, tearful, raw way.
Grew up with 4 brothers. I was second in line. Trevor was the next after me. He passed away, and Connor was after Trevor. All blonde boys, athletes, a lot of fun growing up together. Of course, it was a lot of fun, but it was also challenging. A lot of our addictions come from our childhood trauma. But gone too far soon, but if they wouldn't have left, I wouldn't have been able to change my life the way that I have. So I have a lot of love and respect and compassion for them, and they'll always be with me.
I have been in the area for about 8 years. I'm originally from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I found out about this event last year, and so last year was my first time coming. I was in a pretty bad place. I sobbed most of the time that I was here. I stayed the whole time, and I felt like I was here, but I wasn't really here. And at times I felt like I was dissociating. So part of me returning today was for some sort of redemption. At the time I was experiencing suicidal ideation, so I was very suicidal and didn't want to be here anymore. And that wasn't necessarily connected to anything that had happened, but it was more so just being angry that I came here with this really big mission, this really big responsibility, and feeling like I don't have what I need in order to kind of carry that mission out.
Most recently, my wife's godmother passed away in June, and before that, her uncle passed away in the latter part of last year, and that kind of triggered a lot of unresolved grief that I had about my mother's passing and my father's passing.
Yeah, so his name was Patrick John Anderson, and he was super joyful. He was quite the jokester. From the time he was really little, it was really apparent that making people laugh and bringing people kind of under his spell was really his journey in this life.
I think, my brother Zephyr really brought us here together and he has been for years now. But a big one, I think I've turned my grief into a bit of a spirituality for like myself at least, and I kind of even pray to my brother and give him thanks often, and that's how I live close with Zephyr.
Wow, there's a lot of people. Obviously Z-Boy is a heavy one. Grew up with him, and that was a hard loss.
My son Zephyr obviously taught me a lot. It's like the worst thing that can probably happen to a human being is losing their child. And then I lost my dad, and I noticed that I was more equipped to work through the death of my father.
I lost my mom in March, and she and I were extremely close, and I am processing the new relationship with her. I'm learning to have a different relationship with somebody who gave me life and certainly is not ever leaving my life. But I can't see her, or talk to her, hear her laugh anymore, and that's really sad.
Biggest one that impacted me, the person closest to me, was someone that I was in an a cappella group with in high school, and his name is Emerson, and he was just such a light, like someone who consistently went out of his way to make sure that everyone just felt like as comfortable with themselves at all time. Like would always break up the tension in a room.
I got into a car accident. I think it was a thunderstorm, and my friend hydroplaned. Wasn't speeding or anything. We went across 3 lanes into the other side of traffic and smacked a truck, and I ended up with a broken foot, a broken C2, C3 vertebrae, a broken wrist, and then half my eyelid was gone. And this was at a point where I had just got a promotion at work. I had just moved into my new apartment. I just moved out from my mom's spot for the first time. So it's everything that I just got was kind of taken from me. I had to move back in with my mom. I couldn't walk. I couldn't go to the bathroom by myself. I had to be bathed. I kind of went into my own hibernation, isolation. I have a lot of grief for that old self that I used to be, because it's not like I was driving, that just happened to me. One day I was sleeping in a car, I woke up in an ambulance and my face is busted open. I could only think that damn spirit was just telling me to you need to chill out, you need to sit down, and that's all I could do was just rest, cater to me, nurture me.
He did die in 2019 when he was a freshman at App State, and it has been deemed an accidental suicide. He had had several concussions and was experiencing a lot of extreme pain in his head. And a lot of this, the pain that we found out afterwards through speaking with psychics and kind of unraveling what happened. But the night that he died, he had an accident at the frat house, and he fell over a balcony with a friend wrestling and hit the cold, hard ground and kind of tumbled down a ravine. So we believe that his brain was re-injured that night, and he experienced such intense pain in his brain that he was just trying to make himself pass out. And he was 6'2", and he tried to do this on a 5-foot bunk bed. He actually was trying to choke himself so he could pass out, but he didn't, obviously with his brain in that state, didn't realize that there was the risk of dying.
The passing of my mother was from colon cancer, and there was a period of time, probably about 6 months, that she was sick but had not passed yet. And so that period of time was a lot of conversations, a lot of kind of understanding that she wanted to go. And I think that was probably the hardest thing for me, to know that she didn't want to live in this world anymore. So it was a little feeling like abandonment. I guess I was very centered in my own experience versus her experience of her being tired. But also it was realizing that the life that she had led was one where she didn't want to even live anymore. Her entirety of her life was so hard. Her journey was so hard that when she got the diagnosis of cancer, it was almost like a relief. And she did not want treatment. She did not want to do anything. And that was hard to hear, that she was tired and she was ready to go. And my mother was kind of the last piece of my history. And for her to not want to be here was just really hard for me.
I was raised by a group of moms in this community, and 3 of those moms have lost a kid. So Emerson and Boone are also really big ones that I think are on everybody's mind daily. And then some kids I went to high school with, which even if I wasn't as close with them, it's more like, wow, they're the same age as me, and relaying them through rest. So that's a big one. And then my grandpa, shout out Papa Billy. He was a real one, and I lost him in February of 2020. So
it was a few days before he was dying, and he was in his last time, and my brother and I drank a lot of rum, and then I went and sat with my dad. He was in the hospice bed in his house, and in the middle of the night, I was like, Dad, this is how it's going down. Xavier's gonna carry you over, and then we're all gonna be with you at some point. And my dad started like squeezing my hand. Like he wasn't able to talk, but he started squeezing my hand like I got it, you know? So I think that he either was saying like, you're drunk, or he was saying like, I get it, you know? And my dad was a protector for me. And then I had to in turn be his protector. And so, but I could not have done it as well if I had not had Zephyr before. I'm grateful that I'm equipped.
I don't even remember there being like a particular cause, but I had an amethyst pendulum on my desk, and I picked it up and I started asking questions one day, and I was feeling very drawn towards just the idea of Emerson. And I remember like asking a couple questions, and it was swinging yes for a good bit, because you know it has to do with like the way it's swinging. I'll never forget when I asked, I was like, do you miss me? And it stopped swinging yes. It like paused for a second, and then it started swinging no. And I just like started bawling, and I was like, is it because you're here with me right now? Like that would, you know? And it stopped swinging no, and then it paused, and then it started swinging yes. And ever since then, it's so crazy, because I've, like in a way, I think of how huge that impact was on my life.
I lived as a person whose story was grief, although I was the only one that knew it. And I didn't know what grief was. And as a child, I remember I was suffering and sad and lonely and angry and trying to get off the planet. However, my ancestors were there. I have memories of seeing ghosts in my doorway, who I now know were my guardian angels.
Slowly but surely, you know, my mind and my body started to relax. I did a lot of Qigong. I taught myself how to practice Qigong, and that's actually one of the ways that I began really cultivating my relationship with Patrick. I would invite him into my sessions, he and my higher self. So I would practice with both of them every morning. And that really helped me be closer to him, as I had started to feel him then in my field all the time. Sometimes I could smell him. I started really being aware of when he was talking to me. So when things would pop into my head that weren't mine, I realized he was talking to me. And so we started to develop a way to have conversations together that I wouldn't have expected to be possible.
He sends us messages, and like crazy ways, you know, the universe acts in crazy ways. And like even today, there was a customer downstairs rocking a CU Boulder hat, and that's where Zephyr was at school. You know, we don't have a lot of customers from Boulder here, but today we did. So like, the veil is thin. Zephyr is present. So.
My grandmother, when she was on her deathbed, looked at us and said, I thought I would just have a little bit more time. And I took that to heart. And I try my best not to waste my time and not to waste my energy, not to waste my attention on things that don't serve me or the people that I love.
You know, when I think of my mom, one of the things that why I laugh is because I just remember us laughing hysterically, like to the point that we would pee in our pants, right? We would just laugh, and about nothing. But that full body laughter and we used to call it getting tickled, you know, we would just get tickled, and then one of us would start laughing, and the other one would start laughing, and then we couldn't stop. And I don't have that experience as easily. I've had it with other people, but I don't have it as easily.
I've learned recently, I think, that grief can be, the container of grief can hold joy and love and happiness, as well as sorrow and sadness. I like to think that grief is expanded beyond the suffering.
I think that more people need to talk about it. I think people hide from it. I think people are ashamed of it, and it's a real thing. And that's why I think this what we have going on here today is so beautiful. I just felt a lot of love and a lot of connection, and it shouldn't be anything to be ashamed about. It should be something that we're allowed to talk to people about it, because we need support, and everybody needs support. I feel like that's the hardest thing to do is ask for help around these things.
I realized I was carrying like years worth of grief, and I didn't even know it. So I would just say that I've learned to try to acknowledge it head on rather than putting it on my back to carry.
It has many, many new forms and many, many new people and pets and loved ones that leave us, and it's something that we have to learn to embrace, I think, because otherwise it's just too painful.
I think it's important to own your grief and to be open about it. I think grief is one of those things where really people kind of shy away from it. Remembering that you can keep someone's legacy alive through how you show up.
I guess that it's normal would be the biggest thing, because I feel like a loser for sitting here crying right now, but it is normal. It's normal. You love people so much, and also I guess thinking that it never happens. It never happens to you, or it never happens to the people that you love, but it does. And it's okay to get it out, because maybe if you did, you wouldn't be sitting here crying in front of a camera. So it's normal. That's the biggest thing. It's normal.
Embrace it. Grief is a part of life. It's an experience that everybody has to experience. So even though it's difficult, it doesn't have to be bad.
Grief is just something that comes with loss, comes with being human. And how do we witness it on others and be with other people?
I want to be an instigator of healing. And I think that's what Death Faire is for me, is celebrating, because I think I've finally understood that grief is just love. And if we can do that together, then we can really connect and heal. So that's my goal with this project.